Hi. Hi, Mike. Hello. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
All right. Good to see you.
And you, how you been?
Yeah, been quite a day. Just a heads up. Today, day one, catching a cold from my son. I took him back home last week, right? So was all right for the last few days, and today waking up and it was like a tsunami.
Oh
So
dear.
yeah, being also sleeping heavily. So yeah, probably not in my best shape, but yeah, still would like to do the catch up. Yeah, and also
Okay. So I should be gentle with you then, shouldn't
you've always been.
you? That's very kind of you.
All right,
Right.
so maybe sharing some wins. So yeah, today probably maybe just an hour at most. Okay, I think that's
Fine.
probably. But yeah, so any wins? I particularly would like to learn about your coach workshop.
Yeah, well, no, that was awesome. Um,
Okay.
so I'll tell you what, the coach workshop was not going to be a win
Oh,
because only because I had some other wins that I thought
yeah.
would be worth celebrating. But because you've asked about it, I'd happily share with you
Okay.
some of the really insightful and clever stuff that
Okay. Okay.
I learned from Coach.
Okay.
And and so I'm actually, as I'm talking, I'm just looking at um, some of these notes that I made.
Okay.
But they kind of, they say so the titles of the sections were obviously they do the positive power up to start with,
Mm-hmm.
but then they talked about how to amplify your unique ability.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then they started looking at leadership and your leadership confidence, and then a multiplier, and then they started looking at the certainty uncertainty focus, which is
Mm-hmm.
one of the kind of mind or thought tools that Dan has
Right.
created.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty much the day. And then also I had a personal session with the coach. I say personal,
Okay.
but I mean, we went to a separate part of the room and I asked him some specific questions and he gave me some specific answers. So yeah, that was really interesting. I think the unique ability amplifier has, yeah, it just helps continually evaluate what you've done. So I don't know if have you gone through
Right.
this book?
I think yeah, that's probably what we also did the unique ability, the amplifier last time. I think.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because you're ahead of me, aren't you? So,
No,
are you're still on it, right?
right. But I finished my last workshop. Okay, for the second year already. So.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay. So, yeah, well, then you know everything that we've done there, right? So that's it, really. But I think the amplifier then there's this whole process of, what is it that you do? Something that he's repeated last time was making sure that the company serves you or works for you. And I think that's a really interesting kind of, um, uh, idea that I don't really, hadn't really taken into it. Anyway, so that was that. That was interesting. I mean, he also said, so he did this little thing where you said,
Right.
right, so you got whatever your goals are, right? So you started in December and and we're here at April. A quarter of your year has gone by. So
Right.
have you achieved the goals that you wanted? Because you're never going to get that quarter back. So it's just this whole idea that time keeps on moving forward, right? So that was that. The win though was on the on April the 15th, I delivered a course for somebody who asked for it. And I don't know if I told you this, but I built this.
You had a coaching client.
Yeah. So I built this workbook for them.
Okay.
And it's like 50 pages of stuff and we didn't get all the way through it either. So that's all I did is similar to what Ben does in that, although he's infinitely more qualified than I am, is to curate different bits of information and bring it together and time to coalesce it into an idea and a plan. What was interesting was we had agreed what the general context was, and when we did the first part of the meeting, obviously I did the RDOS question, right? If we were here in 12 months' time, and he spun out a different direction that I kind of knew was a kind of thing tinkling on his mind, but not really what he was asking about. So it was so we went off there was a potential to go in these two different directions. And that was entertaining for me as standing there listening. But then it became a coaching set. So I got halfway through the content, and by the end of the day, or before the end of the day, he sat there and said, "Well, we're not going to finish this, are we?" I said, "No." He goes, "Well, can I book you in for another day?" And I went, "Yes." I said, "Same rates as before?" He goes, "Yes." So I spent a week collating this information, right? Knowing full well that if I could just get another customer, then it would always, value up. And so the fact that before the end of the day, he asks me for another session meant that I was back into profit, right? Because the week that I spent putting it together meant that I'd lost any money I might have made on the day. So that's all done. And then the day before I go to coach, I'm talking with another long-term customer. He's probably so we've got two big customers, and they're basically our top customers. Right? And I was talking to him, and he went, "Oh, I might," because he goes, "What's new?" And I went, "Oh yeah, coaching, yada yada yada." And he went, "Oh, I might need some of that." I went, "Sure, okay." And I thought, "Oh, okay." It's almost like I knew what I was doing. I threw the line out, right, and I just put some bait on it, and I just put it out there. And he came along and he went, "Oh," and so I thought, "Okay, be gentle." So I kind of like let that play out a little bit and just let him sit there and mull it over whilst I talked about other things. And then I came back and I said, "So are you serious about that then?" And he went, yeah. No, I think so. And I thought, okay, yeah, I've just pulled him a little bit more and I let him have some room. So I let it go.
Nice.
And then over the course of like a 3-hour meeting where basically we sit down, we have lunch and we chat and all sorts of different things. But anyway, it's a very kind of relaxed meeting. And so I kind of said, "Well, is it just for yourself, do you think? Or do you think it might be for your team?" And he went, "No, I've got about 20 managers in my team now. Probably they could do with something." And I went, "Okay, fine. So you're serious about this?" And he went, yeah. So then the final bit is then we're walking down into the tube station, into the metro. We're on the platform. We agree the deal. And the deal is that I will deliver 2 days for him, for his team, one in the north and one in the south of the country. And I will send him like a structure with a pick and mix of things that he can choose from. I've got to develop that now, but it's not going to be far off what I've already put in that document there. So it's just about when I went to coach, I was sitting next to one training and development coach from South Africa, and then you remember Paul from Mindset from AMP.
Okay.
Paul Shepherd, I think his name is.
Paul Shepherd? Yes, definitely. We met him in London, actually, during the London Dan Sullivan workshop, right? Last year, remember? Paul Shepherd was there.
I don't remember meeting him there, but anyway, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that
he had an interview
so he's,
with Dan. Go ahead.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So he was opposite. He and I usually sit on the same table, and so So it was him and this South African, and I'm sitting there telling them all about this, and they're going, "Well, you should do that more. It's kind of like your unique ability." And what I also realised is that is a unique ability. I was in flow for the duration of this kind of training session. I had no problem answering or navigating the guys' questions or anything like that. Putting together the content was difficult, but not impossible, and it wasn't tiring. It was something I could do easily. I just realised it was an easy thing done. So that's kind of, it's made me think then that, because I believe that not very many technical people are taken seriously at board level. So IT is considered a cost. It's not an investment. It's not a security based upon protecting the reputation of the organisation. It's not an investment in safety. It's just a problem that, is a cost, right? We have to do it. And therefore, IT professionals at a senior level rarely get to report as an equal member on the board. A lot of the time, they are subservient to the finance director or the head of finance. Right? And there is a reason for that. And that's generally because IT guys are nerdy little fellas who like playing on laptops and keyboards, and they're not very competent. And I wouldn't say this to everybody, but they don't think broadly beyond their area of expertise.
Beyond their professional domain. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I said this to the guy who's sitting opposite me for lunch, and he went, "Yeah, you're right, you're right." And I said, "Therefore, I think there's a scope there or a gap in the marketplace for training people like that, so that they can become better equipped to sit on the board," which is what this first guy said he wanted, right? So anyway, all of that, and these guys were being really encouraging. So it's kind of like
nice. What I heard is that you are doing executive coaching, actually board level coaching, right? For some of the IT tech background people, to equip them with better mindset, business sense, mentality, perspectives, right? So they can, I guess, contribute more as well and be taken more seriously, right?
Yeah.
At the higher level. Yeah. So that's wonderful. Okay. And it's particularly wonderful to hear that it also fits into your unique ability and you're in the flow state when you're doing that, right? So I think that's all good signs. That's all good signs. All right. Okay. So all right. So maybe I'll share some win on my side. Okay. Okay, so I think probably a couple of things. Okay, so one was I met a couple last Monday. Okay, and basically what they want to do is to apply for what's called MIT REAP, which stands for Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program. Okay, so you can Google it, MIT REAP. It's a program that's there for 10 plus years. Okay, and basically cities apply for that. So for example, some European cities, in Japan, Fukuoka, okay, that city was one of the REAP participants. They go in cohorts of 2 years, and the expected result is to become a regional startup hub, sort of incubating and replicating Silicon Valley. Because MIT is at the East Coast, right? Boston. It wasn't considered as a startup hub actually before 2009 or 2008. The sub-mortgage crisis. But after that, a lot of the banks, financial institutions were damaged, and they were really thinking hard about how to restructure. And Boston actually became a startup hub afterwards. Okay, and recognized as such. And I think the MIT program sort of they kind of took that and wanted to incubate, coach other cities. So this woman, Samantha, she actually has successfully helped New Taipei City to apply for MIT REAP. a few years ago. And right now, she's the secretary of an organization that is actually executing a $10 million Google fund for media. Okay, whatever that is. Okay, but just to, I mean, and right now she's applying for, Hualien, which is the east coast of Taiwan, to want to, to actually apply, get into the MIT REAP. Okay, and that requires some funding. I think it's 100K. Okay, with 5 or 6 participants, they each have to contribute about 100K, and some of that is for MIT, and the other, then But what's interesting is she and her husband Michael, who's an American. Okay, but she's in Taiwan because she had to take care of her mom. So what's interesting is that, one, they are serious about building a startup space in Hualien, which, by the way, is one of the poorest place region in Taiwan. Okay, it's on the East Coast. It's remote, nice natural beauty. It's very much like Prince Edward Island. PI is actually the poorest state in Canada. So very similar, in terms of lack of resource, talents, young people are moving out, there's no opportunities, elders. But she really had a vision of turning that around, especially, with new ideas, concept, international entrepreneurs, right? Because Hualien is a nice place. And she akin that to Taiwan at large as well. Because in some sense, Taiwan is also marginalized in the global tech startup space, right? I mean, in the past few years, Taiwan only has 4 unicorns out of like 1,500 global unicorns. Okay, so given the talents, Taiwan does have TSMC, right? You probably know the semiconductor powerhouse, Taiwan Semiconductor, but that's just one. Okay, so if she pulls this off with Hualien, it could be an experience that could be something for other parts of the area, also for Taiwan. So, and they are also interested in real estate tokenization. Okay, so this is something of interest to us. So also, they're open for the unicorn concept. So basically had some really nice, exchange. And they are in the process of application. I'm trying to follow up some key pools who might participate in the REAP program. Okay, just some of the people, investors, and maybe real estate guys. That could be this. So if the REAP happens, okay, then obviously I think they will be a client for TAPP. I'm pretty sure. Okay, and especially at this stage, right? If we're helping them to secure the funding, the partners, also get into the MIT program. And the MIT program is actually a global network, okay, of other major cities. So there's, again, talents networks. So that's one. The other thing is I got into contact. This is while looking for entrepreneur in residence. I recently became interested in this title because I'm, sort of see if it's something I could do for some of the other. And there's a tsunami. Okay, it's based in Berlin, and they're fully remote. Okay, and basically talked to the founder just this afternoon, and so they are trying to build up a remote, only ecosystem for startups and entrepreneurs. Okay, and potentially to tokenize their equities, and they do have a process, a 3-month process. So I think that's something, there may be some space for collaboration. The other thing is I did realize that, having, the impact framework, right? I sort of did, wrote a blog post about, regarding decoupling the voting rights and the profit sharing, which you find that bizarre. Okay, that right. That impact thing. I right now, this past week, kind of realized that it could actually be a, using bartering, okay, for professional skills and times to help startups, to actually get formulated with, especially in the early stage. So so I guess basically just realizing that as something. Okay, and also TAPP do have some progress there. I don't have the full read of the revise of the white paper, but I did write down some key points. I think that would like to see to put into the white paper. Okay, so right now that's I think that's something to to move towards. Okay, so all right, so that's my win for the past week. There might be others. For example, getting really close with my son is taking a sick occasion. We had some great time. Also with Paris this past weekend. Yeah, but okay, yeah, but my I'm probably not in my best physical state now. So yeah. All right. So
Well, you look fine, mate.
all right. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. Still trying to catch my breath, but yeah. Okay. So what would I guess any feedback or any topics you'd like to discuss for today that you think will be the most valuable?
Well, okay. So look, so on the board,
Right.
I was mulling over TAPP.
Okay. Right.
My daughter's been in here and she's written "I love cybersecurity" on there, but I mean that's her being a bit silly. But anyway,
all right.
Point is that board there is all about kind of how are we going to make it work for TAPP. So,
right. Okay.
The challenge being that Ian is going to suggest we do his suggestion for how it's going to work to make it work for everybody is
right.
You deliver you've got the white paper that tells everybody what it's going to do. Then you've got a way in which you can tokenize it. And in his marketing brief, he says if you can't tokenize it, if it doesn't have good tokenomics, then don't look at doing an ICO. Go for a more traditional round of funding.
Right.
Okay. So you've already spent some money on him to get him to do the work, right? Or to give us access to him.
That access. So yes. Great knowledge.
So, so the thing is, you're saying we've got to tokenize, right? Because now we have to, because otherwise or we walk away from it if we can't agree how to do it.
Okay.
Because and his kind of ethos is, the early adopters get a better percentage than people who come along later. And so I was mulling all of that over on how do we make it work, and how do we make this kind of if somebody invests 1,000, when do they get them? How do we generate this extra token value and all that kind of stuff? And that's why I came up with what I sent to you the other day on last Sunday
over WhatsApp, right? Over WhatsApp.
Yeah, because seriously, Shannon, I just did it on my phone. I was sat on my sofa thinking about it, and I started typing, and then all of that I kind of pulled out of my phone. And I think what that can do in its raw form is it answers questions like how do we give a benefit for those people that come on to start with, right? How do we make that benefit better than other people that come on? How do we do some form of sharing where people actually get that kind of profit share versus voting share kind of thing? So it brings together the ideas, perhaps not in exactly the same way that your initial idea was, but it actually to me it brings it in a way that I believe somebody who is looking at a more traditional context will understand and handle, because we can't, if we go in too radical, people will walk away because they have to think too much. So you have to make the thought process so simple that it's a no-brainer, but at the same time introduce the potential to make something really different. And I think then if we have for instance, in the white paper, or some form of caveats which allow us to make changes in the future, which I'm not saying this is right, but it might be being open to having some of the TAPP tokens on an open exchange, for instance. I'm not saying that's a good idea. I'm just giving an example. And it might also be that some of the tokens will, this idea that voting tokens will be distributed to token holders or something like that. So that it actually gives people, it tells them what's going to happen in the future. So it's not a shock. The other thing then is what most people bank on or kind of gamble on, is a better word, is that if they sit there and say, my token, I'm going to generate 1 million tokens today, and I'll generate 1 million tokens every day. So people gamble on the fact that they're going to be, they'll, and that's how they can do it, because they'll be allocated, for every dollar you spend, you'll get 100,000 tokens, right? And we're not doing that because we're not trading on the open exchanges. So how do we make it exciting for them to come in? And that's why I gave the breakdown, the percentage that I gave. And I think, broadly speaking, it broadly conceptually works. So that was really important, because why is that really important? Because we get that sorted, and that's going to tie into the narrative, the slide deck, the white paper, right? And then from those three things, everything else will flow out. But we need to get those things sorted first.
Okay. Okay. So I am looking at your proposal, right? So this is I think what you have mentioned is really about there's ratios. You might want to explain a bit about the I guess the ratios. I see 4 rounds of 500K raises, right? And with different number of tokens. So I guess it's about you started with diluted tokens, or last dilute. Maybe you can explain a bit about what's the one for. I don't know if you like to share your screen, or
I'm just trying to.
Or maybe I can put that.
I'm just trying to open it up actually. How do I do that? No, don't want that. Are you sharing screen then?
Okay. Let me.
I want to try and find it so I can just open that just on its own, but it's not.
I have found your message, so I can probably do a screen share. Okay. So.
Wait a minute. Let me see if I can do it. I might be able to do it from here. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Share screen. Share
right.
screen.
You want to do that? Okay.
Share. Okay. Right. So. Okay. Right. So you can just see the conversation, right?
Right.
So okay. So yeah. So in Ian's thing, he talks about having this kind of breakdown where you've got early bird, first round, second round, normal, right? So and that's the only reason why I'd want to do it on. You don't have to have a normal one, because we only have to have 3 rounds if you wanted. I just put 4 because it's easier with the maths, right? And what that also does is, then that means if we take an arbitrary thing of 500K, then that means that we've raised 2 million, not 1.5, right? So that then means if we're doing the early birds at 1 to 4, then 1 to 4, and we want to raise 500, then we need to make 2 million tokens. Okay, so that's how many TAPP tokens we raise in the first one, and so on and so forth. So it's just maths in terms of breaking down how many dollars per token we want, right, based on that ratio of 1 to 4, 1 to 3, which means then that we've got 5. We're actually going to cap 5 million tokens. So then that gives a scarcity element to it. Scarcity equals value. and that's it. It's tradable within TAPP, right? So within the exchange, if you're an investor token holder, you buy at, I don't know, you buy at 1-to-4 ratio, right? And you've got however many of those that you have. At any point in time in the future, you can sell those to anybody else who's within the exchange for any amount. So they have to. So that then means straight away, for this to work, we need to control and have an exchange from which people can actually trade their token.
Okay. All right. So let me try to understand this. You are releasing, so this is different batches, right? The first is 2 million tokens, and then it becomes more and more scarce in a sense, right?
Yeah.
All raising the same amount. So the first question is, are these all the same tokens just released at different stages? Okay, so these are all the same tokens. I see. So,
but you've just made a really interesting point there, right? Because you've said you're releasing, they're becoming more scarce. So theoretically, the value of each token should actually increase.
Right.
Because scarcity, right?
Right. I can see that there's a design scarcity in what you are, writing here. So what can the tokens do? Are they just profit sharing tokens for the TAPP platform, basically? Is that the
Yeah. So in this bit here, so we start with investor tokens for sharing of profits. Right. So that TAPP token enables you to share profits of TAPP. TAPP the business, which actually generates funds from the TAPP property projects.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Right. All right.
I couldn't remember the
professional tokens. So I put investor token, management token, and professional token.
Okay. So let's say that's investor token, and it stays the same. You said management. Okay, that would be for us, right?
Yes, management will be for us, and that will be professional tokens, professionals. Yeah.
Management would be what I called founder tokens.
Right, sure. Yeah.
And then we've got worker tokens, and worker tokens are what you call a developer, yeah? Professional, sorry, right. Okay. Fine.
You have a nicer ring to it, I think, than worker.
Yeah, but let's face it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, all right. So the professional tokens transferable for USDT for wages, or if you're held over time, then they'll have a profit share element to them. And we'd have to put into the white paper, and then these may include some form of voting thing in the future, right? But we'd have to put all of that as a maybe element for the future, right? So then we've got founder tokens. So this would be management tokens, and what you say, and that's basically you and me, right? You and I get that, and that's it, right? Unless we choose at some point to share that with somebody at some point, right?
Okay.
But then we would raise 5 million of them. So effectively, that what one could argue from the well, no, one wouldn't argue that actually. So we'd raise 5 million of these investor tokens, and then 5 million of these owner tokens, founder tokens, whatever we call them, right? Management tokens, and then that's it. But we wouldn't sold or gift these unless we had the consent of both of us in the first instance, right? And if let's say we sold 10% to somebody else, then that same rule would apply. You can't sell those shares, you can't sell those tokens unless you've got consent from everybody that owns them, right? Or maybe we have to put in there you have to have a more than 50% agreement or 60%. We can write that into the contract, right? But essentially then what that means then is that these founder tokens or these management tokens, they're the real kind of, That's the real power behind TAPP, right? And this is TAPP as the business, right?
Okay.
Not any projects.
So
let me go on.
Yeah, so just one question. So I mean, in terms of the founder token and also the investor token, what difference is in terms of the profit sharing? What's the
We'll come to that down the bottom.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I called it worker because I couldn't remember, but it's developer. So this is a 1-to-1 USDT ratio. Okay, so all worker tokens will have the right equal share to the percentage of the TAPP profit. All worker tokens will have a right to the equal share of a percentage. So let's say we raise 1 million of these tokens and we give them a share of, I don't know, and I'm just making this up as I go along, 1% of the profit. Then each token will be worth 1/1,000,000th of 1%. Yeah. Now it might be each developer professional token. Sorry. Each professional token will have an equal share of whatever the percentage of the TAPP profit we decide to give them.
Okay, I see. Okay, yeah. Okay, I see. Okay, you have the 10% share of profits, right? Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's what I'll put later on. Right. Okay, so all tokens can be traded back to TAPP.
Okay.
So if we pay somebody a professional token and they say, well, I want it as USDT, then they can give us back the professional token and they'll get 1 USDT for it, right? And that'll happen on the exchange. And then we'll have to raise professional tokens every quarter, and we'll use the cash that we have in the organization to raise the USDT for payment and stuff, right? But it does apply that concept that somebody who's got a professional token can actually, if they hold on to it, then at some point in the future when TAPP is making profits, it'll be able to hold on to those and trade them in for higher amounts later on.
Okay. So did I read that right? The professional tokens here, it's 1 million per quarter. Is that how much you're expecting to sort of create as a form of payments for professional services? Is that the
No, I don't know what the number is. I mean, I just said we will have to raise.
Oh, okay.
I just used 1 million just as an example for if we wanted to, if we raise that many, if we raise that many, then they would have a share of whatever the percentage is of the profit. So actually, in the beginning, to be honest with you, this doesn't make any sense for somebody who's working for us. They're going to trade in for USDT every day. There's no point in holding on to it because there is no profit to start with. Only when TAPP actually starts working and then they'll start seeing a dividend, then they'll sit there and probably keep it.
Right.
Okay, so token distribution, right? So we've got 5 million investor tokens, and if we offer them, and again, I don't know if this number works or not. I just kind of thought it might do. So we got 30% of the profits. That's profits of TAPP at the business, and then that dividend is paid in USDT, but they've got 0 voting. Founders get 60% of the profits and 100% voting. Tokens get, okay, so I did 1 million a quarter, could be 1 million a month. I don't know, right? But they get 10% share of profits. Right? Tokens value paid in USDT, and the profit share is only available to those holding tokens. So obviously, if I hold a token and I cash it in, then I lose the profit. I lose any rights to that profit.
Right.
So we might want to say that in the white paper, we can say that voting rights may be available to investor tokens and professional tokens in the future, as well as an increased share of the profits, but that's at the discretion of the founders. So what that means then is that we've now raised, potentially we can raise that 2 million. and that'll cover us easy for 2 years of operations.
Okay.
And put the platform in make it launched globally so that we can cover key areas, so that we can generate key. And I think from what we've heard from that guy, who's friends with, yeah, that's the one. And from what I've read, it seems like Singapore is a good place to be in terms of like a kind of pan-Asia jurisdiction, because it's open to crypto, but it's also, you know, it does business, right? They've got both the kind of Islamic way of doing business and the kind of the Western way of doing business as well. So it's fairly structured and it's got laws and all the rest of it. So that means then that we could actually, you know, it would validate us in that kind of pan-Asia arena as much as SEC would validate us for the US. That's my kind of impression. So that means then that we can focus our attention on getting our legal standing within Singapore, our legal standing within the UK, America, and potentially Europe. And we've covered a significant part of the globe. And I think that if you were to, I mean, I spoke with my with my nephew, who's a lawyer in the States, and he does crypto law and securities and stuff like that. Because I did talk to him about this in the past, and to get to do the legal framework that both Nick uses, like this Reg D or whatever it's called, right? And to do what Homebase use, right? To leverage that regulation, I think that's a loophole way of working. Whereas if you were to actually structure it so that you followed the SEC guidelines and became fully compliant, it would cost somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000. But if we've raised 2 million, that's what we spend some of the money on. And we make sure we become fully compliant. There is no argument. So that you can actually allow people to come in and do the kind of the things that, you know, we want them to do, which is invest without the worry of, well, is this legitimate? Is this secure? You know, it brings in it and that then opens the door for greater investment, right? I also think it would make TAPP worth a lot more as an entity, because it would have an inherent value because of its compliance, which would make it attractive to a lot of different people. And likewise, if we sat there and said it would cost the same in Singapore, in UK, in Europe, and in America, then you're talking about anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 to get those 4 regions. Now, I'm not saying it will cost that much, I'm saying it could cost that much, but that would be an earmark of that 2 million straight away. I think we could probably get, if we did all the programming, not ourselves, not asking you to do the coding, but if we were to just control it all, I don't see why we couldn't get this up and running for $500,000, to be honest with you. And that includes payment of developers and stuff like that. Time frame, that's a different thing. But I think what we need to do then is that if we've actually looked at you know, if we can actually raise it in this context, then we can actually deliver this, and then we know that we've got people who are interested in it as a concept to be able to tokenize their projects. And if we can, you know, if we can sit there and drive up enough enthusiasm within both the people that want, and we can sit there and go, look, we've got a list of customers here ready to sign on. You know, they're ready to do this. We've got the demand, we're delivering supply. That 2 million is going to be a piece of pie to get, because that's the story that Ian wants to hear, right? that 10 million people from, whoever to whoever, it's going to be a no-brainer to get this up and running. That's it from a sales and marketing kind of point of view. I think that would be an easy sell, because so long as we're not asking people to think and we're illustrating that we're legitimate, then if it's a no-brainer, it will be easy to do.
So let me try to recap some of the no-brainer parts you mentioned. All right. So, all right. So it's a bit of coughing. So I think the no-brainer part is the obviously the I guess the profit-making part. Okay, also the legal part. Okay, because we are looking at to get it fully compliant at different jurisdictions. So I guess is that right? And also the simplicity of the tokenomics. Okay, I see these three parts. Is it right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Okay. So all right. So I think the only thing that's this is essentially what I kind of originally proposed regarding the token design, with the investor, management, founder, / worker professional, right? I think the only difference is the ratios that you're proposing now, okay, which I can see. This is something you like to see. Okay, better for the founders. Okay, that's one. The other thing, I think it's the creation of the tokens at different stages. Okay, so if we talk about starting with basically a lot more tokens, 2 million, right? And then 1.5, 1 million, and then 500K. I see that as the other difference. So, and that is something sort of creating a kind of a artificial scarcity. But also, I think by releasing or selling the tokens at those, quantity and that level, you are automatically assuming that each token has a certain worth, right? Basically, essentially the tokens initially is only worth $0.25, right? And in the end, each token is worth, I guess, a dollar, right? 500K tokens for 500K.
Oh yeah, okay, fine, yeah.
Right?
So it has got that built into it.
Yeah, I
okay,
just like to point that out. Okay.
Yeah, it's true.
By selling at these designated quantity with that, we are essentially saying that the token valuation is increasing, right? From $0.25 to $1, right? As it goes, right? As it goes. So that's actually a 4x. That's a 4x.
Can I just take this call? It's really important. Sorry.
Sure.
Kerry? Hello? Hello? Oh, I can now. Sorry. I'm in the office, which is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes away. You would not believe the nightmare that I've had. So we've been refurbing our kitchen for a month. Should have taken 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks of problems from that person there. It's just constant. And it's the granite worktop. So this is the worktop that actually shows everything as, granite is. Anyway, sorry, that's why I had to disturb this and take that call.
No worries. Everything happened for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. So
I think so. Just to reiterate a point here, the only reason why I did that staggered approach is because it's the mindset of the crypto investor that, if I get in early, I'll get a deal, and this is what Ian wants to leverage, right? And even if you go in at 500 on a 1-to-1 ratio and you get $1 a share, you're still going to get a deal because you're going to get a share of the profits. And if we structure the demand element of what we're offering, okay, and we say what our aims are going to be, that by, you know, by year one we'll do this, by year two we'll do this, and so on and so forth, then people will be wanting to get in early straight away.
Okay. Okay.
So that,
All right. I understand. I understand. Yeah. That's essentially, I guess, the tokenomics, you know, ideas, right? Behind,
yeah,
yeah. And ultimately, it's really a matter of people's perception, okay, of how trustworthy, valuable the platform will become. For example, like, I mean, like Binance, right? Binance released their BNB tokens and it was trading at a certain amount, but then it increased, right, over time, over year. And that's a reflection of how valuable they consider the Binance. I mean, the Binance BNB token does have some utility values in terms of, you know, saving some exchange fees, you know, maybe having some higher saving ratios, etc. But ultimately, I think it comes down to an issue of trust and, you know, and the perceived value of the platform, right? So yeah, I mean I think I get that. That's perfect. I mean that's perfectly fine.
I think also we would have to sit there and say that if you're investing on day one, then you probably wouldn't be able to. We don't anticipate the exchange being live for at least 24 months or 18 months or something like that, which, you know, just basically means they're tying in their money for that period. And when I read one of the other ones that Ian gave as an example, it didn't even give a time period. It said we hope to be trading on public exchanges. That doesn't. When do you hope that to be? Tomorrow?
Right. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't. Public exchange is really allowing speculation over the token value, right? Allowing markets for token value.
And we don't really want. We want to discourage that because we want to put. And you know, the argument being is that we're providing value and we're providing something which has got, you know, it's got a P&L and it's asset, you know, asset based backed, as in the projects are going to be asset backed.
Right. Exactly.
And we're building our own exchange so that you can actually, you know, people will exchange the tokens for whatever value they think is fit at that point, but it's going to be people within the community.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's also good. It's essentially a platform token. That's what you're describing, designing now for the TAPP. It's a platform token, and it's going to be, I think, in a closed ecosystem, which is good. Right? Because it ensures that the value can be you know, traded. Tokens can be traded at a more controlled fashion. So yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, I guess okay. I'm happy with the ratios as well. Okay. If the investors accept. I mean, 30% profit share, I think that's about, yeah, that's about okay, and 60 for the founders. 10%, yeah, I like 10% to be for the worker professionals. I think that's a, you know, that's just a good idea to be there. It also creates incentives for them to hold on to their professional tokens, right? So I think that's and I mean, it's just a design. I feel that we want to implement and test out in terms of you know, can it bring enough incentives for the professionals that we're working with, right? So yeah.
Right. I would imagine in the first instance, no. Right. When we start off, I would imagine that we would get people trading straight away.
Okay.
And then gradually, as the project becomes more real, and you know, dependent on the type of relationship we have with the people, you see the difference is if you're asking somebody if you're outsourcing it to somebody who freelances, you're more likely to get them to hold on to stuff if they've got enough work from doing their freelance stuff, from other freelance stuff to pay for the stuff, and this becomes an investment for them. If you're paying somebody a salary and that's all that they've got, then you're only going to give them a salary, if that makes sense.
Okay, I see. So yeah, agree. So I think this is yeah, I understand the logic. I'm glad to see it. You know, more refined and also in your language. It's a way you understand, which is great, and I also understand. So yeah, I let's go for it. I say let's.
I don't think it was far away from what you'd already suggested at all. And I think,
Right.
obviously it's
The same framework.
you did it to 80% and I did it to my 80%. And I think that's, but I think also I read what Ian wrote and I listened to what Ian wrote, and that's why I thought this makes sense.
Okay, great. All right. So next step, right? So what's the next step that
So I think if we agree that this is how we're going to do it, then I don't know whether or not we implement this into the white paper or not, because now we've got two. It's almost like we've in our white paper for TAPP, the platform. Then we've got to build what our plan of what we're going to do and how it's going to work, and then it's almost like each TAPP project is going to have its own little mini white paper.
Okay.
And I think we're going to have to agree what some of the criteria are for making that mini white paper. For instance, you know, value of the project at day one, value of the project when the project is complete. How many stages are there going to be? What are the requirements for? You know, how are the valuations going to be defined, attributed?
I see. Yeah. It's what's called an investment proposal. I think something already in proper something. Yeah, it's basically a investor proposal, right, for real estate.
Right. So we need to agree upon what is the framework for that, because that in its own right will dictate and determine the value of what TAPP is providing from an investor point of view, because then they can have visibility on future investments.
Okay. Right. Okay. So
also, what we don't know whether or not our proposal of doing, you know, for every project, for every million, raising 1,100 tokens, of which we get 100 rather. And we're asking people to invest $1,000 per token. So we're taking that 10% straight off the top. And who does that come? You know, or how do we? That again is a question that, although we can illustrate roughly that will generate, you'll be breaking even by the fourth quarter. And again, are we agreed on how we wanted to do that in terms of the generate? So, okay. So here's another point. So, sorry, my mind's flipping from different things here. So, coming back to what's on the screen, if we've got our professional tokens and they're valued at 10%, let's assume then that all our professional tokens have been traded in for USDT. So there's 10% of the share of the profits remaining at the end of the year, because none of our professionals have bothered to keep their tokens. What happens to that 10%? I don't know the answer to that question. Perhaps it goes back to, you know, perhaps it's shared equally between the investor token holders and the founder token holders.
Okay.
Maybe 50-50. I don't know.
Okay.
So or it goes back to stays in within TAPP as retained earnings for next year.
Okay, I see.
So that's it. But we ought to make that clear in our white paper, because that's going to be part of our operating procedures.
Okay.
Coming then to you know, and the reason why that's stimulated is because have we agreed that if we're going to, for argument's sake, for every million that we request, we're going to have 1,000 tokens for every $1 million, and that's not, no, actually we're going to have 1,100 tokens, but we're going to ask each investor to invest $1,000 per token, right? And essentially we're keeping 10% of that 1,000.
Okay.
So how we structure the wording of that will be how the investors will determine whether or not they're being taxed on their 1,000 that they invest, or is the person who is generating the million going to be taxed on the million that they get. So how do we structure that, right? Because the message will be from either end, well, I've lost 100,000.
Right. True. All right. So Mike, yeah, I do have to go attend. Yeah, my son's here. So yeah, but I really like the the proposed discussion. So next step,
we can use this into the. I'll implement this and put it into the narrative now.
Right.
And we can start. This will start fleshing it out. So we've got this is going. Once we've agreed this, and we've got the white paper, the slide deck, and the narrative. Everything else will flow from that really quickly now.
True. Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
But
so next, next step is it that let's try to finish that as much 80% done for those parts for this week. Would that be the to do
for this week?
Or maybe one of them, the narrative, right? White paper.
Well, the narrative should be done. I think we're pretty close. If we should have finished those 3 sections.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of by the end of the month, actually.
Mike, how about this? You work on the narrative and the deck, okay, and I'll work on the white paper, okay? Because I think I can probably flesh out a bit of the content of the white paper. Yeah, still have ideas, and besides, I wrote the JCF white paper.
Did you?
Yes. Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I was a paper writer.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm only teasing.
All right,
buddy. So, I'll let you go.
All right. So appreciate it. Okay. So
get well.
Next week, right? Next Monday, is that our next call? Okay.
Yeah, if you want.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.